Can everybody see this okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, so welcome, guys. I love it when Bob does these webinars every month, and I'm privileged to be able to host this one. Kind of helping everybody try to discover not only for FBOs, but also marketing yourselves as individual instructors. So it's kind of a little bit of both. And once we get to the end of the presentation, if you guys have any specific questions for your situation, I'd be happy to talk through those with you. So it's provided by the National Association of Flight Instructors. This is how to market your services as an instructor and also FBO. So our discussion today is going to be on three major topics. The first one is inbound marketing. And that may be a new term to some of you guys, so we'll go through and define that. Of course, inbound marketing is composed of blogs, personal websites, lead generation. Basically, you have what is traditional marketing, which would be sending out flyers and sending out emails and things of that nature. And then there's inbound marketing, which is creating content for people to find. The next topic here is social media. Of course, everybody is familiar with social media. However, you may not be familiar with how far social media goes back, way before computers. So we'll talk a little bit about that. The major ones that you are familiar with, that most people are familiar with, are Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Google+, Tinder, and several others. And the third, and this is, I think, the one that's the most underutilized, is utilizing ABC organizations, meaning like our organization, NAFI, and thank you everyone for becoming members of our organization. AOPA, of course, Aircraft Owners Association, and also EAA, Experimental Aircraft Association. So inbound marketing. The concept of inbound marketing is based on three principles. Okay. First one is getting found on the internet using those search terms that people are looking for when they are trying to solve a problem they have. So such as the ones that I get a lot are Flight Training Chicago, or Chicago Flight Instruction, or Learn to Fly Chicago. So those are kind of the big ones that you see. And if you notice, it's specific to my area. I don't just have terms like Learn to Fly or Find Your Nearest Flight School or things like that, because it's not specific to your location. And people are specific when they're searching, especially for organizations that provide services. After that, we have the middle funnel, and that is what we would call a conversation or getting information from people that visit your site. So it's getting that stuff so you can follow up with people and really target your marketing to specific areas. And there's various ways to get that. We'll go over that. And the third component is what we call analyze. And it's how many people visit that particular landing page or offer. What do we mean by landing pages? Landing pages are basically specific pieces of your website that don't actually link to the rest of it. It's one page on the internet to do one specific task, to get information from people. Offer pages would be offering up services such as I think you could just mute everybody except me. Or can I do that, Bob? Or? I'm not sure. All right. Well, anyway, the third component is what we call analyze, and it's kind of what we're going through here. All right. So what do we got? How do we do this thing called marketing? We're not really marketers, right? I mean, we're flight instructors. We're flight school owners. You know, this marketing thing is just a really confusing area, and a lot of people think it costs a lot of money, and it really doesn't, because the way that the internet is structured now, at least currently, it's ever changing, is targeted for this form of marketing that we're going to be talking about. So the first part of this whole equation is blogs. Okay, now you may think, well, why do I need a blog? You know, it's kind of, isn't that somewhere like a daily diary or something? Well, it can be, but it could also be an area where I put content. Okay, so what we used to call weblogs is, that's now abbreviated to just blogs, is an online content area that is key to successfully generating leads. Why is it key? Because it's offering up information. And I don't know about you, but I'm addicted to like Discovery Channel and Velocity and History Channel because I constantly want information, or I'll crack open you know, the airplane flying handbook or something just to read a few chapters. Because, you know, we constantly want information. We're constantly searching that out. And the web is such a great asset to have for that. There's many different formats exist, but some of the most simple is WordPress, and you may hear that around, and Blogger. Blogger is by far the easiest. You just go to it's either blogger.com or blogger.org. We can look at after. And you just create your online blog right there. It doesn't have to be associated with your website. It helps. Specifically, it helps your website in the rankings for search engines. And then the key to using any of these items is the content. Okay. The content is key because, like we're saying, you know, I am thirsty for knowledge. These people that are wanting to learn to fly, they're going to search out not just flight schools, but they're going to search, you know, learning aerodynamics. What's the best way to start flight training? Top 10 ways to get your pilot's license quickly. You know, things like that are the titles that people are going to be looking for and searching out. So where do I get the content? The first key to good content in a title that draws people in and is searchable. It's a title that draws people in and is searchable. So what do I mean by that? Just like I said before, top 10s are great, or the 5 best ways to do something. Because this is a list content, and you know, we love lists. We love organization. I'm not really an organized person myself, but I feel attracted to those items because it's a step-by-step instruction guide on what to do. So when you're doing your blogs, think of that. And I don't have all of my blogs as you know, top 10 ways to do such and such, but we'll see that in one of my examples. A great place to start, because everybody always asks, well, where do I get my where do I get my titles from? Well, here's one of the best ways to do it if it links properly here. Instead of opening in a small little toolbar. There we go. Okay, right here, titletool.com. And this is really, really great. All you do here, so let's say we want to search, we want to create a blog post on, let's see, give me a couple keywords, guys. What would you do if you were putting keywords out? So like aviation we can do. Anybody else? Are we off mute? No? Okay. Well, we'll just keep going here.
No, we're off mute if anybody's got any ideas.
Okay. How about learn to fly? I'll put in Chicago just because I'm, you know, in this area. So let's see here. Let's generate some titles. If it works today. Okay, here we go. Fly. Know all about how to learn to fly your own plane, or how about learn to fly your first flight or your first lesson. So you could see right here, these are really easy keys to do. We could do the same thing with flight instruction. So if we were catering an article specifically to flying, keep on flying, night flying, well, sometimes they get kind of weird, but you get the idea. Here's a great one. 17 Secrets of High-Flying Students. Okay, that draws you right in and makes me want to click on it, which is what you want. You need grabbing titles that could do this. Let me just show you one thing. If I do a search here, do a Google search, okay, and this is an example. So I want to do Chicago flight training, right? Okay, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to search Chicago flight training. And right here we can see a couple other guys. You can see ones that are targeted here. This is a couple of my competitors, but you got right in the content, the very first part, Chicago flying training. Learn to Fly Chicago. And right here, here's one of mine, Chicago Flying Lessons, CP Flight Training. So all of these are kind of targeted. Okay? The content is key. So you can use these blog ideas, blog generators. You don't have to use them, but it does work. Let's go back to the slideshow here. Oops. Current slide. Okay, so you have the title. Now that you have a great title, you'll need to fill in the content. So there's a couple ways to do this. You can do it yourself, which is what I usually do. You can ask other people who are actually writers, such as editors, other people that may have already written articles. You can ask to repost them. We've had a guy, Aaron Smith. I've reposted a few of his articles. He's a CFI. Pay someone to write the post for you, which is always a way if you're short on time or something like that. A lot of times people would do that for $100 or $150. They'll write a complete post for you. I've never done it myself because I haven't had to, but I know some industry has done it that way. Let's see, here's an example of one of my blogs. So this was a blog entry we did on Learn to Fly with Desktop Simulators. So you can see here, this is the title, Learn to Fly with Desktop Simulators. And then here we have a couple headlines, and then it kind of draws you in after that. And what this is, every single one of these is searchable content. So someone may be searching for flight simulator programs besides Microsoft, or flight simulators and tools, or interested in flying in flight simulators. But any of those would be hits on the search engine, and it would therefore boost your rankings. So a lot of people like this. It's just kind of something to pull people in. And then they scroll to the bottom and they say, oh, wow, cool, look at this. Get the top 10 links for simulator enthusiasts. Well, I'm obviously a simulator enthusiast because I've searched out this blog post, Learn to Fly with Desktop Simulators. Well, clearly I want to get this top 10 links for simulator enthusiasts. I mean, it just kind of pulls you in. And that's the way it does. So let's click on it. Well, here we go. This is what we call a landing page, guys. Notice there is no links on here. There's no outside links. You can't go anywhere else besides this page, okay? And there's a reason for that, because the only purpose for this page is to fill in the information, okay? We'll use my standard one. Now, I added the zip code on here. I suggest that if you guys start looking at exercising these methods, only because it gives you a way to break apart some of the people. Because I've had people that are downloaded this stuff from Florida, New York, I mean, all over the place. So this way you can delete the leads out of your contact list, those that you don't want to target. Okay, so let's get that guide now. So it's connecting right here. Boom. So I got it. Let's download the file. Now what you guys don't see is, and we'll show you this, what it looks like. So this is the file that ends up coming up. Top 10 links to simulator products. There you go. So it talks about Microsoft Flight Simulator, Siege products, basically things that you would want, links rather, to enhance your flight simulator. Now what you didn't see was in the background, what it does is it gets me their information, because I just filled out a contact form. I didn't even realize I did it, but I did it. It has my name, my email, and zip code, and that's it. You don't want to have long contact forms that have name, address, phone number, all of that other stuff, because it takes long to fill out, and people, I believe the statistic is if somebody doesn't see what they like on the website within 1.8 seconds, they're going to move on. So if it's too long of a form, they'll just say, oh, this is crazy, it's not worth it. But if it's just first name, last name, email address, that's all you need, because you can market then to those people specifically. So that's an example of the landing page. Let's go back here. Okay. Oops. Okay, blog posts. So just a little bit more about the blog posts. All blog posts need to end with what professionals call a call to action. And that's exactly what you saw with that top 10 list for simulator enthusiasts. It was a call to action. It's a button that engages you, okay? It engages someone to give you their information. So you fill out that simple form, and you have your marketing tips. But wait, it can't be free. People aren't just going to go to your site and fill out the contact information. I mean, they may. We still have people that do that, but I get probably 20 leads for every one lead that somebody fills out my contact form, okay? But people want something for their information, so we give them those links. And it wasn't hard. You saw it was just a little PDF file that had a few links on it, okay? A lot of times people, they call them white papers. So you may want to have, for example, you could even grab the FAA Student Pilot Guide and say, hey, get the FAA Student Pilot Guide here. It doesn't have to be something that you publish. It's just something that needs to relate to whatever topic you're writing about, okay? And once they click on the link, it'll send them to a landing page on your website, like the one that I showed you. Keys to landing pages can't have outside links. If it has outside links, people are going to click on it, and they'll get, the whole system is kind of ruined. But this is where the magic happens. You put in a little piece of code on your website to gather their information, and a mail program like MailChimp or Constant Contact will automatically send them the document, plus you have their information, so it's a win-win. Is there any more questions about blogs before we move on? Okay. All right, so the websites. This is obviously the thing that a lot of people are familiar with, because it thinks, okay, I create a great website and people will come. Well, that's not necessarily true. Create a great website and people will like your website, and they will be engaged in it and most likely not click away from it. But getting people to the website, so the best way to do this is a website. Many fairly inexpensive website tools exist. I've used One-in-One for $5 a month. I've used GoDaddy. We've used a few others, but they are not expensive. They don't have to be extensively elaborate. The website building tools have come a long way, okay? And I should add, too, you should really update your site at least every 18 months, whether that be new content on the main page or a complete redesign, because it keeps people engaged, okay? We need forms to collect sales leads, which can be generated in MailChimp for free. I use MailChimp a lot because you can send out up to 10,000 emails a month for free, and it doesn't cost you a dime. They've added some extra tools in there where after somebody submits a site, they will automatically send out a series of emails based on topics, which we can get into that another day. Each landing page needs to have no links back to your site. We already said that. So the only thing someone can do is fill out the form. You need to direct your user where you want them to go, and that's very important. Okay, lead generation. So I have all of these leads. Now what do I do with them? Okay, I mean, you can have leads. I got, I think right now, last time I went through, you have 800 contacts. So what are we doing with them? Now you need to nurture that lead, okay? The best way to do this is to send out a couple automatic emails which relate to the topic they clicked on. So it's tailored to them. You don't want to have somebody click on a site or click on one of your web blogs on the TSA procedures in small airports or something and then get a student pilot guide. That wouldn't make sense. But if you were having somebody that downloaded a student pilot guide, maybe the second email would be utilizing Flight Training Magazine. You can have them direct to that, okay? Just have them engage. It doesn't have to necessarily be specific to your company. It's just keeping your company name in the back of their mind, okay? So when you can really get down to it and move on, they'll recognize the name and say, oh, well, yeah, this is a great company. I've already gotten several emails from them. Let's do more business, okay? So you could send them the FAA Student Pilot Guide or link to one of the Alphabet Organizations magazine, like we said. Your job is to get them to come take a flight with you. All right, so let's move on to social media. So like I said before, social media isn't just electronic. In fact, the first form of social media was caveman wall art, okay? It's basically putting it up in a social or a public place, information, okay? Now, modern social media is a little bit different. We have Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Google+, Instagram, and Tumblr. There are just a few of them. Obviously, Facebook and Twitter, most people have pages on. A lot of organizations I notice don't have Google+ pages, but I will show you why that is so important. You should post at least 3 times per week, and this could be aviation-related articles, links to your blog, or just general posts, okay? Like we just had a student solo, so we posted that on our Facebook and Twitter page. We had an article that was very interesting, so we posted that to our Pinterest page not too long ago. So just don't post everything to every single social media site. You'll be specific to what you want to use it for. And Instagram is fabulous, by the way, for using when people solo or do an intro flight. That way the flight instructor can just take a picture with their phone and boom, instantly post it on Instagram. It's a great advertising tool because people share that stuff. Occasionally you'll want to put call to actions in the actual post for social media. A lot of times if it's a specific website or a mail, if you sent out a newsletter or something, you can put those in there, and there'll actually be specific links that generate for the Facebook and Twitter. Alphabet organizations. We don't mean alphabet in a demeaning term, but it's what it is. You know, we all have these acronyms. Obviously, we're the National Association of Flight Instructors. We're catering primarily to instructors, FBO organized, DPEs, people like that. Experimental Aircraft Association. They have the Young Eagles program, which a lot of people are familiar with. Now, why do I bring this up? I bring this up because we do Young Eagles flights regularly. And when I say regularly, probably at least once or twice a month. I have a specific email list that is only sent out for people that are interested in Young Eagles, so I know I get good quality leads that show up on those days. And we'll go 3 hours and that's it, you know. So a lot of people show up for that. Now the reason why I bring this up is because EAA is partnered with Sporties on this particular area, and they offer a fantastic value. So as soon as one of your students does a Young Eagles flight, They get a logbook, they get a code, which once they put that code in, they get access to Sporty's complete private pilot program online, which I don't know any better marketing tool than that. When a young student can get all of the information that they would ever need for the private pilot written, okay, and not pay a penny for it. Now here's the other best thing, and this is why I do it, because after those individuals finish part 1 of 7, Sporty's, out of their foundation, sends you a check for $120 for that person to go up and take a flight with you. So it's really a win-win, and it doesn't. The only thing that it costs you is putting 3 people in the back of the airplane and going up and doing a flight. And I've had several of those people get that $120 credit going to it. Now, I don't know how long they're going to do that for, but it's a tremendous value, and a lot of people have been very successful using that. Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association, kind of in response to that Young Eagles program, they created the Aviators program. Again, fantastic idea. Aviators primarily caters to kids ages 13 to 18. And and I should add, by the way, the Young Eagles program is really made for kids ages 8 to 17. Once they turn 13, then they will be eligible for that $120 credit. Okay, so the Aviators, 13 to 18, they get the Flight Training Magazine, digital edition, completely free. Quite frankly, I talked to several students that signed up for that and asked them, hey, would you rather have the digital or the paper magazine? And they say, well, no, I wouldn't use the paper magazine. You know, they have everything on the phones and stuff. So it's very accessible for that youth area. AOPA really doesn't have a lot of backing behind that program yet, but it is fairly new, and they do hand out scholarships every once in a while. I believe they're around $5,000 for flight training. When they first started that area, it was $4,000 or $5,000 flight training scholarships. So it's kind of specific to that, whereas the EAA I've had much more benefit from as far as students go. But hey, if one of my students gets one of those scholarships, so much the better. I get good business, they get some free money, it'd be good to go. Women in Aviation International has many scholarships for young women. I've sent several young women students there, one of which got a scholarship for $1,500, so that definitely helped her flight training. And probably as far as the most outside area goes, the FAA has the FAST team. And I'm not sure how many of you guys are FAST team representatives. I would encourage all of you to become representatives. And if you don't know how, you could ask Bob or you could ask myself afterwards. We're both representatives. Actually, you're a director, right, Bob? Or you're not just a representative, right?
I'm a lead rep.
You're a lead rep, right.
I'm a lead rep,
the
yeah.
guy that I would be reporting to, okay? The FAST team, as far as getting existing pilots, okay? And I forgot what the exact numbers are, Bob. You remember how many instrument-rated pilots there are?
Oh, you would ask me that.
Yeah, it's like a quarter of private pilots, I believe.
Something like that, 100,000, yeah. Something like that, yeah.
I cannot tell you guys how many instrument students I have received from doing FAST team seminars. And it usually starts out like this. I do the seminar. I do a lot of stuff on iPad, how to teach the iPad, how to use the iPad in the cockpit proficiently. And they'll come up to me afterwards and say, oh, man, that was a great presentation. Do you have a card? And so you give them a card, and they say, well, actually, I really need a flight review in 2 months. And you're like, oh, sweet, perfect. I've gotten more instrument pilots that way going, because once they get in there, you do the flight reviews. Not only do you have a new customer for flight review now, but you also have a future potential customer for the instrument rating. Follow up. So, and actually our editor, David Hipschman, sent an email out, and I think Bob can post the link later on, but it's really funny how this conversation came out. But the first thing in the article that it had in there was you have to follow up. The instructor's number one goal, obviously, is to teach instruction, okay? However, the number two task is marketing. You have to be a salesman. And I know many, many, many students, even ones that started in my organization, that didn't know the first thing about marketing. Now, fortunately, I sell electrical products for a living, so I know a thing or two about sales. But anybody can do it. So the first thing, it's so simple. The first rule, okay, the best way to market yourself as an instructor is to follow up with people. Get the leads and strike up conversation, okay? Rule number one is people love to talk about themselves. So let them, okay? Don't cut them off. Just try to nurture them, and you know what? They will just warm right up to you, feel comfortable with you. They'll have a much more efficient training environment, and the trust level will be there. And not to mention, I've made some great contacts in my day-to-day life. HVAC guys, plumbers, accountants, people that I even call upon if I need help with something. So find out what their background is. They'll love to talk about it. In fact, it was Dale Carnegie that wrote that in several of his books. And if you guys don't know who that is, check out Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's a fantastic book, and it'll definitely help you with sorry about that, guys. It'll definitely help you.
I think we lost Rick for a moment. I think he went to.
Oh, sorry about that. I got
it. I think he went to mute a phone.
I had to turn it off. Okay.
Yeah.
So, like I said, guys, check out that book. It's a real great tool for just opening up to people, finding more about people, talking. Another great task is obviously going to aviation seminars. We've had a lot of good contacts at the AOPA aviation seminars that they put on through the Air Safety Foundation. So just go there, talk, and make contacts, okay? Email a couple times. This is kind of how you would want to follow up with people. So you have the lead in your contact list now. So send a couple emails. Make them personal on top of the automated emails. Then maybe after a week or so, or I would say 5 to 7 days, pick up the phone, give them a call to see kind of what they're interested in. If they're really interested in training, maybe you set up a date to come out and look at the airplane. Not to do an intro flight, but just say, hey, I'm going to be out at the airport on this day. Why don't you come out? I'll show you the organization. You can kind of see some airplanes and go from there. 75% of the people that I do this with have gone up on an intro flight the same day. It never fails. You get them out to an airport, they want to go up in an airplane. Okay, it's easy. Another way is invite them for coffee to talk airplanes. And it may be unique to my organization. I know a couple of other guys that do this, but definitely none of the major training organizations in Chicago do this. But if I had really interested people, I'll say, hey, why don't you meet me at the Starbucks and we can talk airplanes for a while. I don't charge them. It's just a conversation. It's how serious are you? What's your background? How can we go about getting you this private pilot certificate or instrument certificate if you guys are interested in it, okay? So follow this advice, and you're guaranteed to have more students than you handle, okay? I will personally be able to follow up with anybody if you have any questions. I actually did not put the slide up here that had my information on it. But Bob, did you have that or?
Your information?
Yeah,
you have several email addresses. I want to be sure I use the one you want used. So
we'll
I can put it
here, guys.
Yeah.
You can email me at rtodd@cpflighttraining.com. Okay, if you have any questions about marketing or what I've done, we're all in this together. We're all trying to create get more people back into flying. and there's definitely ways to do that. There's a lot of people out there. So,
well, Todd, Rick, Rick, that was a great presentation, and I stepped on you there. You're ready to take questions. Now, I just opened up everybody's mics, so if anybody has any questions or anything they want to discuss with Rick and me, mainly Rick, this is his show tonight, feel free. Rick, you've stunned them into silence.
I guess. Well, let me ask this: Has anybody had problems on getting leads? No.
Van, you're usually good for a couple of comments.
Oh, I'm just listening. But
there you
I
go.
have a question.
I knew it.
When he was talking about the social media,
Right.
How much benefit is Google Plus? I don't find that many people using it.
Okay. Here's why Google Plus is a benefit. Those people that are signed in, and it's really, let me put it to you this way, it's really not about Google Plus, okay? But if I sign into my Google account, okay, if I sign in up here, okay, I want you to see what happens. Hopefully I can remember my password.
Been there, done that.
Yeah.
It's okay. You only have 50 people watching you type.
That's right. Exactly. All right, we'll use the other one. Okay. So I'm signed into my account here. If I'm signed into Google, watch what happens. We're going to do that same search, Chicago flight training. Okay. We have, these are all safe sites that it's shown, but look at this now. So I am now higher in the rankings just because I'm signed in, because Google kind of knows what you're interested in, right? And this is the more important part. See right here? These are Google Plus pages. So if you were signed into your Google account, you would see links for these Google Plus pages. So here's one that we did on weather tips and tricks, okay? So this is the Chicago Premier Flight Training Google page. And then here's a link for our tips and tricks here. So right there, it's not really about that. It's kind of a segue on pulling it in. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's like people that are on Google Plus. They wanted it to be the same as Facebook. It's not. But the advantage is it gets you higher in the search rankings when people are actually signed into their Google or Gmail accounts. And that's the important part.
I want to go back to something that you brought up, is the follow-up and the conversation.
Right.
One of the things I see too often in flight schools, either the owner of the flight school or the FBO, what have you, and or the individual instructors, is, and this is where I really think we need to turn the industry around, is people come in, or the expectation is if you come in, you're going to learn how to fly. And that just because you're on the airport, people will come to you. Rick said it very well, and I just want to get everybody's thoughts on this, but we are salespeople. We have to remember that. We have to remember to close the sale. Let me ask you this. If you walked into a car dealership, especially one that's going to take a lot of money from you, because flight training is not cheap, and you walked in and they said, "Oh, you want to buy a car? Look around, let me know." How long will you stay there? Anybody have any thoughts on that? Am I missing the mark, or is it time we change this model? I mean, how often have you, and especially new flight instructors, and I'm reluctant to use the word younger because that's a pejorative.
Yeah.
Many inexperienced instructors that don't realize how important that customer contact is, and they don't send the email, they don't follow up. Any thoughts? Anybody want to share their experiences or thoughts about that?
Yeah, I have a thought. This is John Gibson.
Hi, John.
And I have a little game I like to play with flight schools. I'll cover up all of the logos, that indicate that I know anything about aviation. And one of my favorite games is to walk in and ask someone about learning to fly, and then sit back and see what happens. And the game here is for me to not talk and to let them talk. Now, if they'll ask me a question, I'll answer it. But if they don't ask a question, my role is to keep asking them questions and just keep them talking. And I can't tell you how many times that I'll go in to a flight school and come out with a rate sheet on what a 172 rents for, wet or dry, and how much it costs to pay, what I need to pay for a flight instructor's time. But unfortunately, there are way too many times where I leave and they don't even know my name. Now, I'm someone who took the time to come to their place of business, and they're so excited about talking about aviation, they don't take the time to ask, a customer why they're there. So I would encourage others that, once you've done this marketing and you get people in, to go back to what Rick said earlier, it's about the follow through, and it's collecting that information and listening to what the customer has to say.
Yeah, and that's it, John. I mean, listening to the customer, let them talk. They want to talk. Even if even shy people, they want to talk. You just got to kind of get it out of them and coax them, make a nice environment for them to do that. But, I did put up here, guys. Yeah, sorry about that. My mic was weird. That the thing that came out yesterday that our editor David Hipschman sent Bob and I today, and it's such a cool article that was just written yesterday. So I would encourage people, just search CFIs need to step up. Okay, it's the first thing that comes up in the search engines. In fact, maybe we could post it on the LinkedIn page or the Facebook page, Bob.
I'll ask John to do that tomorrow.
Yeah, ask John to do that tomorrow. But it's basically, it says exactly what we've been talking about tonight. And this was one gentleman that talked about, I believe, worked in eastern Michigan. But it basically talks about these problems and how to market. So, yeah, it's a very good article. So I'm glad David sent that to us.
Yeah, I think it'll probably be a link in eMentor too, probably. Knowing David, yeah. He'll take care of that. Anybody else have any thoughts? Do you think we're missing the mark? Oh, we have one here. Question for Rick.
Yeah.
On an average, how many people fill? And this is from, I'm going to get the name wrong, Al Nakwi. I know I mispronounced that. I apologize. But on an average, how many people fill out a contact form? Asking because people hardly do it for me, even when I provide them original content. So, what's your success rate been, Rick, in your place?
It's been very good. I have a right now. I believe it's an 18% conversion rate, which is very, very good as far as marketing terms. Let me make a little suggestion to you. There is a company that I use that I've read many blogs from, and it's called HubSpot. They do offer services, but their blog is fantastic. And we'll type it up here so you can see. It's basically what they call a CMS, or a content management system. But these people are so in tune to inbound marketing. They are the ones that almost kind of created the modern inbound marketing platform. But if you go over to their blog, they have so much great content, and it's really about that transition thing. So some ideas for you: do a couple posts on simulators, using desktop simulators. Those are probably my top ones that I've gotten links from. We did a few on becoming a student pilot. The key to that, when you're doing that content, make sure you include the city or the metropolitan area that you're in, because that will target the searches, because people are getting more and more detailed in their searches. You know, they'll actually type out complete sentences now in how people are searching. So
great point.
Yeah, so definitely include the metropolitan or city that you have the instruction at in your posts.
The other thing that, and Rick has kind of alluded to it with the blogs and so on, create buzz. I can talk about this now because we finally gotten, and there's one caller on here to whom this is near and dear, but we finally gotten approval from the Omaha Airport Authority to open up a new flight school, and it's a big deal the way Omaha is set up. Like a lot of major metro airports, they want people to be registered or approved to do business on the airport property. And all we did while waiting for the approval is we started a little conversation about the fact that there's a full motion advanced training device that will be used as part of the training, and with no advertising, no nothing. But we've been generating calls, and people have been curious. They've been coming over to see it. They've been wanting to talk to us, and the airport authority had no problem with any of that as long as we weren't advertising it. And now we already have a beginning of a customer base for the school. And so people want to talk about planes. They want to do this stuff. They're interested. So invite them in.
So you were asking specifically how well we were doing. Right now, this is my actual live site, and I don't know if you've been following the news, but in the Chicago area, there hasn't been much flight training going on lately. So
been a little chilly?
Yeah, a little chilly, and just, you know, the snow kind of poses a problem when there's 6 inches on the runway. So it's a little bit slower. But you can kind of see here, this was the last month. These are the actual leads that I've gotten. So just to date, there's been 4 new leads. Last month, by that time, there were 7 new leads. But in total, I can show you, the total leads that we have. And this is actively marketing leads. So we have 513 total leads right now.
And Rick, I think part of the message is, and one thing that I've learned both as chairman of NAFI and also in my other one of my other day jobs working for a major corporation, is that on surveys, on leads, and so on, a 20% conversion, it's pretty darn good.
Yeah, it is. And I didn't think so, but and here's the thing about this. It takes time. You're not going to immediately put content out there and get the search engines going. It took a good 6 months from the time that I started doing posts, and when I regularly did posts about once a week, sometimes every 2 weeks, realistically, you really want to be posting on your blog at least once or twice a week. But for me, it's a part-time gig for me, so I just don't have the time to be posting that often. But even then, you have to have the content out there and be able to support that content. Okay? So definitely the automated follow-up emails, that's a fantastic thing. In fact, maybe we could do a segment with David on just email marketing and techniques on that, Bob. So
that's a great idea. I think I'll hit him up for that for April. I think that's a great idea. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody? I stepped on somebody, please. I think somebody was going to ask a question. I stepped on.
Must have. Well, maybe not.
No, it must have been. I guess not. Well, does anybody else have anything for Rick or myself, or any thoughts, suggestions, any success stories they want to share?
I'd like to weigh in on something Rick said earlier, and it's about HubSpot. And when you first go to I can't say enough good things about these folks. They've provided a lot of information. I've been following them for 5 or 6 years. And there's a ton of information on that website that's free. Go to the marketing library,
free, you're right.
and check that out. Certainly they're in the business of of selling marketing services, and at some point when your business is right, that's somebody to look at. But before you ever get there, there's a lot to learn and a lot of great ideas. Well presented, brief. It doesn't take you a long time to go through that stuff. So I would check out HubSpot's marketing library. If you don't get anything else out of this call tonight, get that.
And the one last thing I'd like to say, and you can hear it in Rick's voice, you can hear it in John's voice. He's our John. What is your title today with NAFI? Why don't you introduce yourself to everybody?
I sweep the floors. I clean things. Yeah. Business director of business development.
Yeah, I wanted to give you a chance to toot your own horn there, and he does a great job for us. But you can hear it in their voices. You can hear it in my voice. Yes, sometimes it gets a little discouraging, but we do one of the coolest things in the world. We get to fly airplanes, and we get to teach people about it. Don't ever forget that, and please share your enthusiasm. That's what makes this. First of all, it makes this easier, makes the job more fun, makes the challenge more exciting. And at the end of the day, your students pick up on that, your prospects pick up on it, and they say, there's got to be something cool here. So
I'd like
please
wrap up. Okay, yeah, I just wanted to thank everyone again. I appreciate being able to talk to people about this. It really isn't as hard as you think, and by all means, email me if you have questions. If you'd like me to look over some of your content, I'd be more than happy to offer up suggestions, because like we're saying, after all, we're all in this to get people up in the air.
And to close out for tonight, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody for attending. Rick, you didn't really talk a whole lot about your school. You got an audience. Give yourself a commercial here real quick.
Well, I think it goes without saying. I teach people to fly. We're a Chicago-based school. We have 8 part-time instructors, mostly retired guys, some guys that are out of college, but I'm very selective on who we have, and really try to pair the instructor with the students. And by doing that, I actually personally go up with every single student at least once to make sure that their personality is going to match, at least what I think is going to match with the students and or the instructors. And it seemed to work pretty good for me so far. But,
and if you go into Lewis Airport, or is it Lewis Airport or Lewis University Airport?
Yeah, Lewis University Airport. LOT.
Yep. Look up Rick. It's on the way to Midway. And just say hi. And one last question from Al Nakwi again. Do you offer ground school at your place? Yes,
we do. We don't do it as much. We do it primarily in the wintertime when revenue isn't being up. Some of the best ways to get people with the ground school I found is actually using the group discount deals. And again, that's another topic. We're actually going to talk about group discount deals if you guys are following the NAFI Mentor or the e-Mentor segments. There will be a how to not go out of business section using group deals, because I can't tell you how many people that I know that have operated flight schools. They do one group discount deal and that's it. They're out of business because they can't handle the financial loss. So there's areas you can use that. But yeah, ground school's really great revenue generator. Great for just sitting down and getting to know people too.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Rick. I really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for attending. it's not too early to talk about this. Look for us at Sun and Fun. We have several. We're on the schedule for several forums, and look for the blue shirts. And feel free to buttonhole us about any questions. Rick will be there. I'll be there. Several others of us, and we love seeing the members, and we love talking to you. So on that note, everybody fly safely. Have a great night, and we'll see you next month.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.